Welcome back. So we ended the last class talking about creating boundaries with our values instead of rules. When we know what is important to us, we can work to use that in our parenting, in the way we talk to our kids and handle conflict, in the way we make decisions and empower learning. And that can really help to ensure that we're teaching what we actually want our kids to learn. And that's why communication is so important. We may have all these great ideas in our heads, all the dreams of what we want our life to look like, our kids, our family. But if we don't know how to show it, how to discuss it, how to implement that into the way that we parent, the message won't be received. No one else will know what we really want or what we're trying to do. Like we mentioned before, it's hard to parent through our values if we don't know what they are. And once we know what they are, we need to learn how to make them known. We do this by the way we talk, the way we think, the way we act. So first, think about the language that you use, how you express yourself. What comes out when you're frustrated or tired or something isn't working like you want it to? Many of us have gotten really good at making everything revolve around us while also never really talking about ourselves. We get cut off in traffic and say, "What the heck? What is wrong with that person?" Making it about the other person when what's really going on inside is probably that we felt scared that it could have caused a wreck. But we're making a judgment or putting the blame for our own feelings on someone else without even sharing what that feeling is. You see, in that moment, I'm not reacting to the other person cutting me off. I'm reacting to what my brain thinks about it, how I interpret it. If my brain is thinking, that's going to get me hurt, I feel scared. If I'm already running late, feeling rushed, and my brain takes it as a further interruption in getting where I need to go, I might feel impatient and annoyed. If, however, it just doesn't really mean much of anything to me, just a part of driving, thinking, maybe someone's in a hurry. I'm okay. I'm paying attention. I can stop quickly when I need to. No big deal. Then it might not change how I feel at all. Still just feeling good. So while my reaction might be, what is wrong with that person? The issue isn't really that there's something wrong with them, or even the fact that they did something unsafe. It's all in how my brain makes sense of it. And that's where my response comes out of. So yeah, we all react. Feelings come up based on what our minds are thinking. And we respond with what we know. This is the language we've learned to use. Maybe that's how you saw your parents or caregivers react in similar situations. Maybe that's how the people in your community talk. It's socially acceptable, normal. But is it helpful? Well, when we're trying to live out our values and teach our kids how to effectively communicate their feelings and needs, no, not helpful. Because our kids are watching us, listening to the way we speak. And just like the car situation, we do this in our parenting as well. Maybe you feel tired and exhausted, like you just can't handle anything else in this moment. So you say all sorts of things to your kids. Stop that. You need to behave. Don't do that. You're getting on my last nerve. I've had enough from you. Go away. Essentially, putting the responsibility for your feelings and needs onto your kids. Telling them that they are wrong or that something is wrong with them, that they need to do something or be something for you. when really what they're doing might be totally fine. It's just a bunch of stuff going on with you internally where you're feeling maxed out, and that comes out as someone else's fault. In communicating like this, we're not getting what we need. Sure, maybe we're making everyone else accommodate us, which could feel helpful in the moment. But we're not sharing what we're feeling, we're not asking for what we need, and we're not showing our kids what we want them to do when they feel like we do right now. We're making everyone else the problem instead of recognizing what's really going on inside of us. And that's so ingrained in our blueprints that we often don't even realize we're doing it. Recently, one day, I was working in my office at home while my husband was downstairs with our kids. And I heard screaming and crying, and suddenly everyone was running to me to help. I was so frustrated and really getting on my husband's case for not being able to handle things without me, pointing out him being on his phone and not giving them the help they needed, and all this stuff that in the moment felt like the real problem, putting it all on him. But after everything calmed down and I was alone again, I realized that wasn't what was actually going on. Regardless of whether anything I said was true or not, the strong feelings I was having weren't my husband's or my kids' fault. The truth is, I was feeling a lot of pressure with what I was working on, trying to get something finished and feeling like I didn't have the energy to do it. So when I was interrupted, when I got involved in helping everyone else with their problems, it compounded those feelings even more. And that is what I was reacting to. Not my husband, not my kids, but my own internal state and the way my mind interpreted what was going on around me, which after recognizing and regulating myself, I went back and shared with my husband. Now, circumstantially, the same thing has happened before. Being interrupted, my kids wanting my help when I'm doing something else, and at other times I've happily given the time and energy that was needed from me in that moment. Feeling good about it and going back to my work, no problem. So it's not what happened around me, not what my husband did or didn't do, not what my kids did or didn't do. It was what happened inside of me, my own feelings, my own state of mind, my own way of making sense of things, my own blueprint. That's what I was reacting to. And while there is always room to learn in hindsight, a lot of hurt, disconnect, and confusion could be avoided when we can communicate effectively about our own feelings and needs up front. There are so many ways that situation of mine could have been made better. One of them being to talk about it, even if it's after the fact. I told my husband what was really going on and how I blamed it on him in that moment. I also could have asked for what I needed, like, whoa, I am really not liking this interruption right now and don't feel like I can give the kids what they need. Can you help me figure this out? And then there's the preventative. If I'd paid attention to what I was feeling before all of this started, I could have said, hey, I'd really like to finish this thing and I don't feel like I have the energy for anything else right now. How can we make sure I only have to focus on this one thing? Or I could have worked through my own feelings first to figure out what I needed so I could get to a place where interruption wouldn't be such a big deal. Maybe eating something, taking a short walk, or connecting with a friend could have given me more energy. Maybe planning out my day to take some other stressors off my plate. There are a lot of things that could have helped me and kept things from getting to a place of me flipping out and blaming my husband for everything. And all of this is helpful to see after an occurrence. Not to beat myself up for what I could have done better, but to give myself awareness. To give my mind new ideas for how to handle things in the future. To bring to consciousness what I'm wanting to work on, practice, and grow in. So I can intentionally do it differently next time. I can become more tuned in to what I'm feeling and needing, what's important to me and what I want, which dialing into myself more and more deeply allows me to do the same for my family. As I learn to recognize my emotional state of being, I can begin to see where things start getting off, where I need to intervene, what I need to do for myself. And I can do that for my kids as well. I can see when they're just done and need out of a situation. I can see what they're feeling and how I can help them in that moment. I can see what they need in order to grow. Effective communication is a key component in building strong relationships with your kids and empowering them to become everything they can be. So how do we communicate more effectively? Basically, especially when we're making this shift in the way we talk, I think of it as getting ultra specific. I think often we have this tendency to under-communicate, sort of half expecting the other person to fill in the blanks or come to the same conclusions that we do. But we're all completely different people with different blueprints. I may not know what you know. I may not think the same things. I may have been raised in another way. Have you ever been bothered by something someone was doing and then come to find out they didn't even realize they were doing it? Like we've said, about 95% of what's going on in our mind is subconscious. And each of our minds are unique. So if I say the word football, we're all going to have different associations there. At the basic level, one person might think I'm talking about what I would call soccer. And at a deeper level, maybe someone else pictures happy memories of playing with friends, and yet another thinks of their family member's head injury. When we can appreciate all these individual perspectives and connotations, we can see how important it is to be specific in the way we communicate. Because if you ask someone to do the dishes, you might have a very precise idea in your head of what that means. But if the person you're asking doesn't receive that part of the message, you may very well not get what you're asking for. So start by over-communicating. Say more than you feel should be necessary. In talking about your feelings, what you need, what you're expecting, and what's going on in your mind, get into the details. If sharing your feelings and needs is new for you, this will probably feel uncomfortable. It'll take some practice. In your worksheets, you'll find a list of some basic feelings and needs we all have. This is a great resource to get you started in drawing out what's happening within you and bringing it to the surface so you can share it with the people around you. There is no one best way to communicate. But here's one format you can use. I feel because and I need. So for example, I feel disappointed because my plans didn't work out the way I wanted them to, and I need the rest I missed. Or I feel angry because when you didn't do what I asked, I started to worry that it wouldn't get done. And I need reassurance that it will get finished in time. When I'm communicating in this way, I'm talking about me, what I'm feeling, what I'm needing. And when I explain why, I'm not putting that on anyone else. Even when someone else is involved, I'm saying what their involvement means to me, how my mind is interpreting, or what path my brain is taking in response. Notice in that example, I didn't say, because you didn't do what I asked. I said, when you didn't do what I asked, I started to worry. I'm saying, this is where my mind took me, and that's what I'm reacting to. And when this is new for your family, you might need to say just that. I'm not saying that you did something wrong, and I don't want you to be responsible for my feelings. I just want you to know what I am feeling and what's happening in my mind. So let me give you a scenario from my life a few days ago. I had just spent a long time cleaning my kitchen, down to scrubbing the floors. And minutes later, my kids opened some wrappers and just threw them on the floor. Gosh, I was mad. What went through my mind in that moment was all the work I just put into cleaning the floors and the assumption that my kids didn't care one bit about what I'd been doing. I was needing recognition, and I wanted the floors to stay clean, at least for a little while. Of course, in that split-second moment, I wasn't conscious of all of that, mostly just what I was feeling. So here's what I did. I felt that anger rise up inside of me, and I said, "Ugh, I am feeling so frustrated. I just spent all this time cleaning the floors, and now there's trash on it again." Right then, my daughter picked up the trash and threw it away. I felt instant relief and thanked her, telling her how I felt after it was clean again, and explaining further what I was feeling and why, which is important to add when I want to make sure she knows my feelings are not her fault. And here's why I wanted to share this with you. We could easily turn our feelings into another way of manipulating behavior, which is just as harmful as punishment in making our kids pay for our own feelings and needs. Remember, behavior modification and obedience is not the goal here anymore. If I were to picture the ideal, it would be something like this. We all know how to share our feelings and wants and needs, taking ownership of them and using them as tools for connection and building relationship. And we work in unison to find ways to get everyone's needs met, to create an environment where it is safe to express whatever is going on, to be a team in encouraging and helping one another as we live this life together. So I don't share my feelings with my child to get them to do something. I share my feelings with my child to show them how to talk about their own feelings and to give them more insight into their own mind. And when this is the environment you build within your family, your children will want to act on your feelings, not because they're scared of what might happen if they don't, but because they care about you and they want to help, just like you do for them. And that's why my daughter picked up the trash when I shared my frustrations. Of course, I sometimes want to over-explain to make sure. I don't want her to feel like she has to take care of me. But she's seen me do the same for her or others when they've been frustrated by a mess. We've created and are growing a home where we talk about what's going on and how we can help each other. And we've worked hard to let her know that she is just as free to say no as she is to say yes. She has a really caring heart, And in this instance, she chose to do something she knew would help me. So as you practice more open communication, speaking freely about feelings, needs, wants, desires, values, and anything else you want to share, it will become natural and effortless, and it will help you get to where you want to go. It will enable you to teach your kids the things you want them to learn. It'll move you toward your parenting goals. You will be able to raise children who embody their values and live fully into their potential. For now, this might be like learning a whole new language. Just take it slow. Press through the uncomfortable. And eventually what is completely foreign to you will become familiar, the new normal. Now in your communication worksheet, you'll find an exercise to practice this new language. Keep working on it, and you'll begin to see how the way you communicate can foster connection, growth, and love. Now before we end here, I want to give you one more tool for confirming that what you are trying to communicate is actually coming across to the other person. So just ask, hey, I'm working on more effective communication. Would you mind sharing with me what you heard me say, so I can know whether or not my message is coming through the way I mean it to? Then you can hear how you're being received as you work on your own way of speaking. And then you know if you need to explain further or say something in a different way. To be sure your communication is bringing connection instead of leaving you on different pages than the person you're talking to. We'll be discussing connection more in the next class. Right now, I want to challenge you to share one feeling or one need with a partner or a friend that you haven't really talked about before. And then keep going. It'll become more and more comfortable. Now I'll see you next time as we keep learning together how to become the parents we long to be.